All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're setting the stage for a deep dive into a massive, highly time-sensitive financial opportunity. And the crazy part? It's currently hidden deep within the bureaucracy of global trade. We're going to unpack source documents that detail a really fascinating mechanism for recovering specific tariffs. It's a process defined by incredibly strict deadlines, super complex customs data, and, quite literally, billions of dollars just waiting to be reclaimed by everyday U.S. importers. So, if you or your company has imported goods into the United States over the last several years, the information we're exploring today is absolutely vital.
Okay, let's dive into this. $166 billion. According to our source material, that is the staggering estimated amount of IEEPA duties currently under review industry-wide. I mean, we're not talking about small change or some niche tax credit here. We are talking about an absolute ocean of capital that's just tied up in the global supply chain, sitting in government accounts rather than on the balance sheets of the businesses that originally paid it.
Seeing a number like that naturally begs a critical question, right? Where exactly did this money come from? And more importantly, who on earth is leaving it on the table? Well, the short answer is U.S. importers, across literally every industry and every port. Many of these companies have absolutely no idea that a portion of the tariffs they paid over the last several years can legally be recovered. They're leaving millions on the table simply because they don't even know this window of opportunity exists.
To really understand the origin of these funds, we kind of need to define our terms. The source material refers to IEEPA-era tariffs. Now, that acronym stands for the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, but practically speaking for importers, this covers duties paid between 2018 and today. Specifically, we're looking at Section 232 tariffs, which hit steel, aluminum, and their derivatives, Section 301 tariffs, which targeted China-origin goods, and various reciprocal tariffs affecting multiple global origins. Basically, if an importer brought in goods falling under these umbrellas since 2018, they got hit with these heavy duties.
Now, here is the absolutely crucial point. This is not about exploiting some shady loophole. Not at all. The source documents make it explicitly clear that tariffs paid in error, tariffs applied to misclassified goods, or tariffs levied on goods that actually fell into excluded categories are legally recoverable. It's a formalized, statutory refund process. If the entry-line data shows you shouldn't have paid it, or maybe you overpaid based on complex classifications, you have a legal right to get those funds back.
And wow, here is where the financial mechanics become genuinely fascinating. Not only is the principal amount recoverable, but these funds also accrue a 6% annual statutory interest. And that interest starts calculating from the exact time the legal protest is filed, right through to the moment the refund is dispersed. This effectively compounds the value of the asset. The government actually pays you for holding your capital, but, and this is a big but, only if you initiate the formal recovery process.
Because there is a massive catch. As highlighted in this brilliant quote directly from the source material, the clock is the asset. In this specific corner of global trade, time is quite literally money. The ability to recover these funds isn't open-ended. It is governed by an incredibly rigid timeline, and every single day that passes just chips away at an importer's ability to easily reclaim their capital.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we mean. Let's walk through this ticking clock. Day 0 is the liquidation date posted by Customs and Border Protection. From that exact date, the importer has precisely 180 days. That is the statutory protest window, which the source calls the easiest path to a refund. Once you hit day 181, boom, that window slams shut. From there, your only option is a much more complex escalation to the Court of International Trade, or CIT. And finally, at day 730, the 2-year CIT filing deadline hits and the door closes permanently. The window of opportunity is incredibly narrow.
Because these regulations are so daunting, the source material provides a really honest comparison of how importers usually tackle this. You have the DIY approach, relying on a typical broker, or using a specialized agency like TRA, which provided these documents. Pulling complex ACE customs data, calculating per-entry refunds, tracking that relentless 180-day window, handling CIT escalations, these are highly specialized tasks. While a typical broker might handle some of these on a case-by-case basis, dedicated, SOC-aligned platforms like TRA are built specifically to handle the entire lifecycle end-to-end securely, with zero upfront costs, operating purely on a contingency basis.
To really drive home the friction of this process, just look at the hard numbers associated with attempting this internally. The source estimates it takes an internal team 40 to 80 hours just to learn the process and pull the raw customs data. That's an absolute nightmare for any internal finance team. Furthermore, there's a 100% risk of missing that critical 180-day window on borderline, complex entries if you don't know exactly what you're looking for. And perhaps most painfully, if you don't use the exact correct legal filing language, you are going to recover $0 of that 6% statutory interest we talked about earlier.
This severe technical friction leads us right to this telling observation from the source. Most teams give up at the ACE wall. That's where TRA starts. Now, the ACE wall refers to the Automated Commercial Environment, which is the super complex data system used by U.S. Customs. For most internal finance or logistics teams, parsing through thousands of lines of encrypted, coded customs data, it's just an insurmountable barrier. The documents position TRA as an agency engineered specifically to breach that exact wall.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because you're probably wondering, how does an importer actually breach that wall? Well, the documents outline a highly functional 4-step recovery process. Step 1 is a quick 5-minute eligibility snapshot. Step 2 is a secure handoff of the ACE data. Step 3 is where the heavy lifting really happens, what they call refund engineering. That's where every single entry is run through an 8-category scoring engine to separate the recoverable lines from the totally ineligible ones. And finally, Step 4 is the actual filing of the protest packet and choosing exactly how you want your funding handled.
Step 1 literally begins with a simple QR code provided in the source material. It serves as the entry point for a free 5-minute eligibility check. And this is totally crucial because it allows an importer to share their profile, ports of entry, and duty spend to see if they even have recoverable funds in the first place before they ever commit to any paperwork or grant access to their internal systems.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how we can ground this abstract bureaucratic process in hard, verified math. The source highlights some recent outcomes, and they are wild. They detail a massive $2.4 million refund recovered for just a single mid-market importer. Plus, they note a 94% success rate, meaning 94% of filed protests resulted in a full or partial refund. And the median time from filing the legal protest to the first cash refund hitting the bank account, just 82 days.
And that high success rate is validated by the importers themselves. Take this anecdote from a consumer goods mid-market importer. It really captures the essence of the whole thing. They state, and I quote, "We had no idea this window existed," which again just highlights the intense secrecy of this process. But importantly, they add, "and the broker stayed in the loop the whole way." This highlights a real compliance-first approach. The source stresses that this refund engineering happens right alongside an importer's existing customs broker, ensuring there's absolutely no displacement or friction in their existing supply chain relationships.
Okay, so once the protest is actually filed within that 180-day window, importers face a choice regarding how they get paid. They can take the standard contingency route, where they wait in the customs queue, which, typically takes 60 to 120 days for the government to process and issue the refund. Or, according to the source material, they can opt for advance funding, where the cash hits the company's account the very moment the verified protest packet is shipped to customs.
Let's look closely at the financial mechanics of this advance funding option, because it's not a traditional corporate loan. The source explains that the advance is underwritten strictly on the verified customs claim itself, not on the company's balance sheet. It features a non-recourse structure, meaning it's repaid out of the eventual government refund, not from the company's operating cash flow. Crucially, it puts zero new debt on the company's books. It is entirely optional, allowing companies to instantly turn a verified government debt right into working capital without waiting around in a federal queue.
We've seen how strict deadlines, complex data, and government bureaucracy can obscure literally millions of dollars in rightful refunds. And it leaves us with a fascinating final thought. With billions of dollars locked tightly behind a relentless 180-day window, how much more hidden capital is currently trapped right now in the fine print of global trade? It certainly makes you wonder what else might be buried in the data of our daily business operations, just waiting for the right key to unlock it. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and as always, keep looking closely at the details.